We're beginning a series this morning on leadership, church leadership. We're going to be talking about elders and elderhood for a few weeks. We're going to be talking about deacons eventually, all with a view to being open to and hopefully resulting in some additional elders and deacons in our congregation as a result of the study and the actions and decisions of us as a congregation as a whole. So this is today the beginning of the beginning. It's an introduction to, and if you can imagine the next 3 or several weeks as one giant large sermon, this is the intro to that big large sermon. This is about foundations of eldership. We begin, and we'll definitely spend time with 1 Timothy 3, verse 1. Whoever aspires to the office, and in the text it says overseer or bishop, all right? But it's basically synonymous with an elder, all right? So whoever aspires to this office, they desire a noble task. And the premise for this introductory sermon is to say, where do elders come from? Where would we go looking for elders? If we are a congregation, how do we know who ought to be an elder? And the premise for what I want to say today is to say church elders come from a pool of people who are elders in the rest of life, in all of life. Now, I'm going to work for the rest of the time here to define and talk about what I mean by elders in the rest of life. But elder is not just a role that we carry out in church. It has some specifications and directions pointed at church and that sort of thing. But an elder in a church is part of a larger pool of those of us who are elders in all aspects of life. Elders in our families, in our communities. We're going to talk about what that means here today. And if I don't say this at the end, I will say it at the beginning just in case. Who among us has ever, when we were 16 or 18 or 22 and we had all these aspirations and things we imagined we would be and become in life, who of us ever really becomes those things? Maybe some of us did. Awesome. Good job. Few of us do. But there's one thing in life that we can all aspire to be, to live, to become, and to do well, and that's eldership. So what I'm saying is that elders in all of life includes possibly all of us. And it's something that every single one of us should aspire to do and to be. And from that population and pool of elders in our midst come those who are selected to be specific directed elders in our churches. But today I want to make this, which is typically the most boring and least applicable sermon series in a church history, eldership, right? Who wants to listen to it? It applies to like 1% of the people. But this applies to all of us. This is a sermon saying we should all strive and want to be elders. And from those are taken and chosen the elders that serve in our church. So it's the most applicable thing, I think, that could be said. It's something that we should all desire to be because it is a noble task. So to help us out today, I certainly am not qualified to speak on this topic of elderhood, but there's a guy I know who is, and his name is Stephen Jenkinson. I don't know if you're familiar with him or not. Stephen Jenkinson was born around 1945 or so. I think no one actually even knows when he was born. But he's in his mid to late 70s, okay? And he has lived at least one life, maybe more than one, and he has a ton of wisdom. He's written really important books for our time, our day, one of which is this book, Come of Age, which you see displayed here. Come of Age, the case for elderhood in a time of trouble. Stephen Jenkinson is, more than anything else, what he is a farmer. He's a farmer in the Northlands of North America. I don't want to say it, but I will. He's from Canada, okay? But he's never mind. Okay, but he's a farmer. He's also other things. He has been the director of palliative care for terminally ill patients at Mount Sinai Hospital in Toronto. Gained and gleaned a lot of wisdom about death and dying. Has written a book about that called Die Wise. He's a writer. He's a teacher. He's a lot of different stuff. Master's degrees in theology and social work, all sorts of that thing. But what he is a farmer and an elder and a wise man. And that's why this book is awesome. He begins by identifying what he senses as the trouble, elderhood in the time of trouble. Now, the front part of this sermon is going to be really dense and heavy loaded with me reading some stuff out of this book. If you can make it through the first 10 minutes of this, I promise that you'll get a payoff with a really, really cool picture of a kid riding a bicycle, okay? So just hang with me at the front part of this. All of this is really, really important though, okay? What is the problem? Well, he identifies several problems going on in our culture, why there are no elders. There's a lot of aging going on, and he's one of them. That's why he can talk about it. But there's more old people than there have been ever in the history of our country, of our culture, but there are fewer elders than there ever have been before. Why is that? So let me just do a little bit of reading for you. And I think now the problem with Jenkinson is that even his prose is poetry. So you and I are going to understand about 10% of this, but the 10% we understand, that's okay. That's all we get from Jenkinson. But that 10% is enough to hear and to see and to understand and to know just exactly what he's talking about here. So here's what he says towards the beginning of the book. Well, here is what is becoming glaringly obvious. There is nothing inherently ennobling about aging. Nothing. There's no sign that anything lends old people steadiness or wisdom or magic from on high or from down below. If we don't train young people and middle-aged people in elderhood, we will have no elderhood. There is no such training. Without culturally endorsed deep employment of this treasure of experience that could be elderhood, aging is just more of the same with less of a give a hoot. He said a different phrase, but you got two of the four letters there. It's all swoon, the sordid lunge for enduring at any cost. It's an extended play version of middle age plus infirmity. And it seems to me that this is what the aged among us have become. Something has happened to aging. Something has happened to what it does, to what it means, to what it asks of all of us. There are more old people than ever before, and it seems that there are fewer elders than ever before, and it seems that there could be a causal connection between those two things. Something in the fabric of life in North America inveighs severely against limit and ambivalence and not firing on all cylinders all the time, and this something is being driven to panic by the daily news, and in the panic you'll find the refusal to age. This something robs age of elderhood. No one would seem to benefit from the theft. It isn't likely that anyone would vote for it, but there is a general willingness to forego aging and to live without the elderhood that could have come with it. Wisdom is a personal thing now, nothing more than another opinion in the opinion fest of popular culture, and agedness is at best a prolonged, unextinguished middle age, and the therapists and the life coaches are busy. The young people are watching, wondering whether there is anything lying out there beyond their 40s that is worth the trouble. They already seem convinced, many of them, that at best it is a con, that dread is what follows 50. They are even now inheriting a world that their seniors milked for all it's worth, and their seniors are in their timeshares now. The resentment on this matter is almost incalculable. If we do not take up this work of elder making, and begin to make age credible and mandatory, the children, not yet born, will have the hangover of sweet, toothless platitude and their elders' abdication of duty for their inheritance. In a time of trouble such as our own, those children deserve from us a sign that some are willing to go on as if they are to come. The day will surely dawn when young people will come to you, as they have begun to come to me, and ask, "What did you do about the troubles?" Whether you knew how bad it was, or whether you handed over to them a diminished world with a shrug of compassion fatigue and a vacant wish of good luck, and whether you stood up for them. And until that day, you and I are, we must be, elders in training. So, there's a lot of age going on and very few elders. Well, that's what Jenkinson wants to point out. And there are young people waiting in the wings to see where are the elders because we need them and we don't have them. Here he says on page 203 is the crux interpretum of our time. When your culture practices no initiation, no person making, no purposeful and forceful ending of childhood or parenthood or middle age, where is elderhood supposed to come from? Without the undercurrent of elderhood in the culture, then no matter how old you are, you'll always have your parents and their approval or disapproval of you and what you hold dear, that is, whatever you hold dear apart from them, and you'll have that at the center of the life that has you at its center. You and your appearance made them parents. Individuation and rebellion are the inevitable projects. They propose to end childhood, but extend it instead. Individuation and rebellion subvert initiation and turn it into another parenting, anti-parenting exercise. So he's saying you have initiation into the next stage of life, whatever that is. If you're a child, you're trying to move out from that stage to the next one. If you're a parent, whatever. There's a time where you move from parent to elder. There's a time where you move from child to parent or whatever it is. There are initiations that go on to help you move through those. If there are no such thing as initiations and there are no such thing as ending, I'm not a child anymore. I'm not a parent anymore. I'm not middle-aged anymore. I'm not this or that anymore. If we don't know how to do the endings, then we don't know how to be initiated into the next thing that we're called to be. And that means that no one is being initiated into an elder. And instead, people, he says, on the other hand, people are focused on individuation and rebellion. So they think, well, the way that I grow up or the way that I graduate to become the thing that I'm supposed to is either by individuation and just doing whatever I am and being true to myself and doing whatever I want to do, or else rebellion and reacting to what it is that has come before me. He says those have the appearance of being something that ends childhood, but it actually extends it instead. So part of the problem is that we have no initiations to say, now you are going to become this. And we have no endings. We don't practice endings. We don't practice beginnings. Decentering oneself from one's life. That's what initiation into full personhood is, as Jenkinson describes it. Decentering oneself from life, making it about other people now, rather than about myself, making it about those who come after us. So then, if we have a problem like that, what is an elder? What's the solution? The solution is elderhood. What is it that we're aspiring to be? What is this noble task? What are we trying to do and to become? The rest of this sermon is about aspects of elderhood, okay? So it's not just the 4 that are listed on this page. It's all the rest that follows. But here's the first 4. Wisdom, self-explanatory. I'm not going to spend a lot of time about wisdom. Obviously, wisdom is prerequisite, okay? An elder is wise. Wisdom makes an elder. So that's built in here. But he has a couple of interesting phrases. Grace under pressure is one of them. An elder is someone who understands and lives out grace under pressure. Also, there's a paradigm shift when it comes to age and this concept of mercy that he talks about. I want to read just a little bit. This will be the last extended reading, and it's not even as long as the other ones, but he addresses these things here. Page 132. Imagine that you'll come into your 50s or your 60s with little or no experience before you of the grace under pressure that elderhood makes of aging. You yourself, by then, all but aged. It might be that you're an amateur at mercy, both its exercise and its petition. It might be that you wouldn't know mercy if it wrecked your threshold or crowded your hearth. All those years of learning the body and becoming a self and growing that fine addiction to comfort and competence are done. The endings are coming into view. It's not a failure of the will or the imagination. It's the unbidden realization that you are deeply into the second half of your life, that you've seen far more of life than you're going to see, that the end of everything you hold dear is what will come from you holding it so dear. And if any wisdom survives that heavy weather of age coming on, it kicks in just about now, and you ask for mercy. There are habits of the heart, and they often are broken in crude ways. Mercy being what mercy is, infirmity will break these for you. In this way of all that loosening of the old ties, it may not have come to you yet that you, lasting this long, with all of its allegations of loss, is the mercy that you seek. It isn't all goodness and light, mercy, but it is a faithful sign that you growing down into your age is there, pending, hovering, possible. And for the sake of the young people around you, mandatory. Your aging, you see, is not coming to you. You are not its recipient, its victim, after all. It's not inflicted upon you any more than the quiet, enduring presence of the reasons for your birth and your life were inflicted upon you. Neither its master nor its teacher. You are age's practitioner now. Your aging is coming to those who attend to your latter years. It's coming to the younger people around you. It is one of the examples that they will bring to their aging time. Your aging, its meaning and its purpose, is happening to them, you see, not to you. You practice aging, or you endure it, or you refuse it, and that turns into younger people's lives. So there's a paradigm shift here with what it means to become aged. He says aging isn't happening to me, it's happening to other people around me. My aging is happening to them. So there's a paradigm shift where it's not about me, it's something that's happening to them, and I have a responsibility to do that well. Not to hide it, not to ignore it, not to shove it off to the side, but to celebrate it and say, here I am, I'm aging, and this is for your benefit. Now watch carefully. I'm going to show you how to do life and how to do it well. I'm going to show you what endings look like. I'm going to show you how to live as an aged person. I'm going to show you how to die well and to die wise. He also has imagery of a midwife and an adversary. These are seemingly two polar opposites, but both of them sort of overlap. Midwife, the most tender, compassionate, gentle, encouraging image that you can think of. A midwife. This is what an elder is. This is what they're doing for the generations after them. They're midwifing. They're helping to bring into being something new, something beautiful. They're encouraging and bringing along. But also, they are an adversary, Jenkinson says. To be an elder doesn't mean you're Uncle Bob at the barbecue just messing around saying jokes with the kids. To be an elder means that sometimes you are an adversary to the very things that are going on in the culture and the very things that the next generations are being trained to do, to be, to become. Because you know what that means and you know what lies ahead if that comes into fruition. You're not always their best friend. You're not just, cracking jokes with them. To be an elder means that sometimes you stand against them as an adversary. And that hardship that they endure from your challenges, your faithful, sustained presence of being an adversary, not hit and runs, but there to be an adversary, faithfully staying with them through it. That is what brings them into maturity and adulthood and helps them succeed in life. How do we know when to be an adversary and how? Here are a couple things that Jenkinson says. These are related. We'll circle back around to some of these things as well. The work of an elder is determined entirely by what prevails and ails a people at a given time. That's how we know how to be an adversary. Well, what's going on in our world? What's going on in our culture? What are the waves and the gravitational pulls and the influences happening that are for good or for evil? That's where we know when to be an adversary. The work of an elder is determined entirely by what prevails and what ails the people at a given time. So the restoring realization of the thing is that elderhood doesn't reside in personality or character. They may be the horses that elderhood rides into town upon, but elderhood is wrought by occasion, by the needfulness of the times, not by the needs of an elder. The work of being stilled, quieted when trouble comes. Something there has the elder tone. Isn't that interesting? Not getting worked up, think about their reaction to trouble. The elder's reaction is the work of being stilled and quieted when trouble comes. Elders have no debt to torment or to anything that binds them to a reflex of conscience or to rancor or that makes them mimes to turbulence. Elders can still water to rise when the people have no memory of thirst. I love that line. They don't even know that they're thirsty, but the elders know that they are, that they need it, and how to bring the water forth. Elderhood is a visitation of contentious courtesy. Again, sort of the adversary effect here. Contentious courtesy. It is also the maintenance of courtesy, and the elder finds the ability to praise, not approve, praise in the midst of courtesy, and knows depression to be the sign of the atrophy of that skill. I wish we could talk about this for a long time, but I want to keep moving here. Elderhood in our midst is the willingness of some to testify to the grief and love tangle, to the loving of what has slipped from view, to the grieving of what has not yet done so, and by learning endings, by being willing to slip from view, and then by ending. The elder's job in a competence-addicted culture is not to prevail or succeed or win. It is to wane and then to end and to be good at it. This gives the rest of us a chance to get it right. Told you. One of the images that he gives, and I'm not going to read anything here, I'm just going to summarize. One of the things that he talks about is an elder as the one who lets go of the bicycle seat. When you're a parent and it's time to teach the kid how to ride a bicycle, Jenkinson says we, as parents, we give an oath. And the oath is, it's a promise, because the child needs to hear it and they're asking for it. And so you say out loud to them, don't worry, I'm not going to let go. And that is kind of true. You don't really let go right away. But you mean something different than what you're saying. And part of what it means to be an elder is to eventually break that oath in the mind and heart of the child. It is to let go. Or you can keep that promise, he says, and see what happens. See what happens if you never let go of the bicycle seat. By now, we understand this is a metaphor, right? See what happens to them when they're teenagers and in their 20s and their 30s if you never let go of the bicycle seat. What happens? What is the fear there? The only fear of letting go of the bicycle seat is what they will think about you, and also that they might get hurt and that failure is involved. Jenkinson says nobody Nobody moves to the next stage through initiations. Nobody experiences endings except via failure. That's how we do it. That's how you become an elder. I have some other quotes here that I'm not reading today about how failure is also central to the foundation of elderhood, because elders know what failure is and they know what a great teacher it is. And so an elder is the one who lets go of the bicycle seat, knowing that failure and pain lie ahead, and knowing that what lie beyond that is something that we're striving for, what that child actually wants and what the elder wants too. But in between, there's going to be a crash, and there's going to be pain, there's going to be failure. Being an elder means not just out here in the world, but in the church as well, to say, okay, I'm going to let go of the bicycle seat when it's time. And that time comes sooner than we like to admit. We're not teaching 12-year-olds how to ride bikes. We're not holding on to the seat for 12-year-olds, right? It comes early in life. And we let go. And there will be failure. There will be crashes. There will be pain. The next generation will mess things up. And there will be tears shed. But that's the only way that any of us move forward. That's the only way that you can be an elder and be a good one, is to let go of the bicycle seat. That's the only way that they are going to become what they need to become, is to have a chance to try to balance and to fall, and then to get up. And who's there? Does the elder walk away? Do you let go of the bicycle seat and run into the house and say, well, you messed that up? No, the elder follows them down the road and is there at the site of the crash or the site of the pain, and is lifting, holding out their hand and saying, come, let's do it again. That's what an elder does, letting go of the bicycle seat, but not leaving, staying there with them. Last one, arche, a Greek word. We know this word. It's the one there in the beginning of John's gospel. It actually normally translated as beginning. Jenkinson's going to turn that into a plural, beginnings. Okay, but he does some things with the etymology of arche, and then he moves on to the related word arch, which we all know. Now consider something simpler, the arch. The arch was an extraordinary thing once. It was a mythic structure in that it was a nothing, seemingly a nothing, that bore up everything that rested or depended upon it. The arch begins and ends not with the keystone in the middle up in the air, but in the foundation stones upon which all the building, the arch, and all above it truly rests. And there are two foundations, at least two, to every arch. The word doesn't mean beginning, singular. It means beginnings, plural. Arche is that which understands and bears up. So elderhood are the people that understand the times and the people that bear us up in ways that we don't even understand, in mysterious ways. But without them, what happens? Those foundation stones are elders. That understanding and that bearing up is what they do for us. Real human life is inconceivable without them. Life without them is anarchy. That's elderhood as the foundations. That's why I chose the title for the sermon as I did. Elderhood is the foundation of our society. It's the foundation of our church. It's the foundation and premise for anything good that comes in the future. Without eldership, we have no foundation, and we have anarchy. So I did remember to say it, and I'll say it again. Not many of us, the things that we dreamed of being and becoming when we're 16 or 18 or 22, that doesn't always happen in our life. Most of the time it doesn't. There's one thing that we can all strive to be and to become, and it's the most important, the most foundational thing that we can be in our society, and that is an elder. That's the call. And from that beautiful pool of elders that we have in our midst, we can look at that large group and say, some of these we would like to have as elders in our church and have those people be elders. But we need elders, and we need all of us here to be and to become elders in this world. The future and the future generations depend on it. Let's stand and sing.
When the trumpet of the Lord shall sound,